In today's show, continuing our season preview series, talking all things Donovan Clingan. What can the Trailblazers big man do for an encore in year 2? Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same as Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're continuing our season preview series. We're going to do this for every player on the roster, giving you a brief but thorough look at what they'll bring to the team this season. Today's subject, the big man, Donnie in the middle, Donovan Clingan. We'll look back to look forward. We'll talk about what Clingan did his rookie season in 24-25. We'll talk best and worst case scenarios in the second segment. And then we'll close the show talking role and expectations. If you've missed any of these, if you're a YouTube listener, there's a playlist. It's labeled Season Previews. If you're an audio or YouTube viewer, if you're an audio listener, I label all of these Season Preview. So just search your audio app of choice, and you will find Season Previews for everybody on the team. We will get through everybody. Today's subject, UConn Don. What did Clingan do as a rookie? Well, he appeared in 67 games, averaged 6.5 points, grabbed 7.9 boards, dished out 1.1 assists, blocked 1.6 shots, shot 53.9% from the floor, including 28.6% from three and 59.6% from the free throw line. Started 37 of those 67 games, averaged 19 minutes. He was kind of out of the rotation, out of like the sort of big minute role, but never really out of the rotation. He was a regular but small minute contributor early. He appeared in every single one of his first 12 games, but never cracking the 20-minute mark. He was part of the plan and playing a lot, playing regularly, but not playing at big minutes when he played. But then he got the call. Game 13, the second night of a back-to-back at home, a home back against Minnesota. The second night. And he had a moment. This came in November 13th, the 13th game of the season. Donovan Clingan has 17 points, 12 boards, 8 blocks, including 5 blocks in the fourth quarter. A truly dominant showing. He played a career-high 31 minutes on the second night of a back-to-back. He was phenomenal. And it was just a moment where you said, I don't know that he'll do this again. 17, 12, and 8 is such an impressive performance that it's just like hard to repeat. But if you can do that before you've celebrated your 21st birthday, eye-opening. And then a week later, November 23rd, less than a week later, he hurt his knee against the Rockets. A game where he got hurt and then came back in the game and got hurt again and had to leave. And the Blazers eventually called it a grade 2 MCL sprain. The type of injury that usually is a much longer absence. But Clingan, they said he'd be reevaluated in 2 weeks. And he basically just returned to action in less than 3. He missed 7 total games, was out for less than a month, returned December 13th. I was like, it looked like it was going to be a really big bummer for Clingan. It turned out he just missed a little bit of time. About a month later, he had a left ankle sprain against the Nets and missed 5 more games. Then he returns January 24th, and he basically played for the remainder of the season. He missed 2 more games. One where he got a straight-up DNP, did not play coach's decision against the Pacers. They just Pacers play too fast. The ball moves too quickly. There's the system that Indiana runs. They decided it wasn't going to be a Clingan night. He was a healthy scratch, DNP CD, that did not play coach's decision against the Pacers. And then he missed another game, a home game against the Nuggets because he was sick. He had an illness, but no more injuries. January 24th on, he played every game from there on out for the remainder of the season. And then after DeAndre Ayton got hurt, Clingan was the starter for the Portland Trailblazers of the final 27 games. That's the last game before the All-Star break, and then every single game after the All-Star break. And during that stretch as a starter, he averaged 8.3 points, 10 boards, 1.8 assists, about half a steal, and 1.8 blocks. He was really good. And to close the year after the All-Star break, like with Clingan in the lineup, the Blazers were a top 4 defense in the NBA, according to NBA.com. Like, this was a really good stretch. They were better for that during a larger stretch, but Clingan was like, he was still playing a bunch, but he wasn't the starter. But like with Clingan as a starter, I think they went 13 and 14 during that 27 games, but they were really good on defense. They were a really good defensive team, and Clingan was a real reason why. On the year, he would have led the league in 2 categories, or he did lead the league in 2 categories on a per 100 possession basis: block shots and fouls. My man gets his money's worth. He blocked 4 shots per 100 possessions and committed 6.9 fouls per 100 possessions. He'll have to cut down on the fouling. That's going to be a thing, particularly this year with he's going to move into, a spoiler, he's going to move into a starting role. He's going to play a lot more minutes. He's going to have this opportunity. But like as a rookie, he was already an elite shot blocker, and the foul trouble will have to get there. And he was rewarded for his troubles, rewarded for being such a good shot blocker. Ends up an all-rookie selection. The first Trailblazer since Damian Lillard to be an all-rookie selection as a member of the second team with Clingan. Not Scoot, not Shaedon Sharpe, but Donovan Clingan is the guy who makes it. As a starter, Clingan really kind of found it, right? He averaged 24 and a half minutes per game, so he's playing about half the game, but he blocked 2.1 shots. He was averaging, not quite a double-double, but pushing towards it with 2 blocks, playing half the game. He showed during his rookie season some real skills. An elite shot blocker, an elite offensive rebounder, pretty good defensive rebounder, but not elite level. Elite offensive rebound, pretty good defensive rebounder. If he had qualified minutes-wise, like if he just played more minutes, his block percentage was the percentage of the opponent's shots you block while you're on the court, field goal attempts you block while you're on the court. He would have been second in the league behind only Victor Wembanyama, and his offensive rebound rate would have led the league. An elite shot blocker and an elite offensive rebounder, and the anchor of a team that was a top 5 defense for the 25 games after the All-Star break. After the All-Star break stuff is I don't love that split, right? That's not my favorite split in terms of being a predictive time of the year. But when Clingan played, he was good on defense. On offense, he was a little rough. 64% of the rim, according to Clean the Glass, which is 27th percentile among big men. Like he just doesn't have a way to score right now. His first year in the league, he was an awesome defensive player. He was like a good defensive player by any measurement, and he was an awesome defensive player for rookies, for like a dude who turned 21 during the season. He was one of the great rim deterrers in the entire league. Teams took 5.5% fewer shots at the rim with him on the court. That means what they call hell nos. You go towards the paint, you say, nope. The way Clean the Glass measures shots at the rim is within 4 feet. So a significant decrease, 97th percentile among bigs for Clingan at minus 5.5 decrease in frequency of attempts at the rim. Just absolutely pushing teams to take short mid-range jump shots, to take to pull up and not get all the way to the rim. Like he has real talent on that end. He's got real question marks on offense, to be sure, but he has real gifts on defense, and he is going to be thrust into a larger role. And with that larger role becomes the question of whether he can scale up. Okay, you did it at this level. We need you to do it more, and you need to play more minutes, and you need to do it more frequently, and there's less help behind you in case things don't work out. So let's talk about working out. Let's talk about best and worst case scenarios. That's what we'll do in the second segment. Join me there. First, though, let's talk FanDuel. It's the NFL season. It's here. Week 4 starts one day from now on Thursday, you're listening to Wednesday, September 24th's program. And if you are listening to this program and you are getting geared up for football, well, why not check out FanDuel? Because they're making sure you're ready for kickoff. That's all kickoffs, all NFL season long. And right now, if you act quickly, new customers can bet just $5. And if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. So however you like to wager, you can do that. Player props, same game parlays, jumping in and betting games live, or if you just want to bet money lines and point spreads during the week, you can do that too. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Today's show is also brought to you by the good folks over there at DUER. They're making my favorite pants, DUER jeans. I'm rocking the Relax Fit Taper, and they're the most comfortable pair of jeans that I own. You can step out and do whatever you need to. So if you need to look nice and go, meet some friends and look presentable, go somewhere professional where you can rock jeans, or just be comfortable on your couch, DUER lets you do it all, everything. They got 5 times the stretch of traditional denim, so they feel stretchy without looking stretchy because they just look like great jeans. And they're antibacterial, meaning they stay fresh longer, so you can wear them more and wash them less. The jeans are made with Cool Max that regulates your body temperature and wicks moisture, keeps you cool and comfortable as temperatures change. It's great for any season. It's time to upgrade to the world's most comfortable pants. Get your own DUER jeans today. I know you'll love these too. And DUER are opening a new store right here in Portland on Northwest 23rd. In October, check them out at 820 Northwest 23rd Avenue. This is the new era of denim in Portland. And you can mention my promo code in store, Locked On Portland, and you get 15% off your first order, or you can check them out online. Shop DUER.com/LockedOnPortland for 15% off. That's shopDUER.com/LockedOnPortland. All right. So what we do in these season previews is we do best case and worst case scenarios. The idea is that the players fall in the middle. We're setting the polls. What's the best case? What's the worst case? But it's best case scenario within reason. So we're not going to talk about like MVPs because I don't think Donovan Clingan is going to win the MVP. That's not reasonable. And we're not going to talk, and it's worst case scenarios without injury. So we're not going to talk bodies breaking down. Worst case scenario, things that happen within the lines. So what is the best case scenario for Donovan Clingan? It's that he's an elite defensive anchor. Full stop. The best case scenario is that he's one of the best rim protectors in the NBA, building off an impressive rookie season, and with an uptick in minutes and an expanded role, he ends up getting votes for the all-defense team at the end of his second season. The best case scenario is he's the starting center and the rim protection backline anchor specialist, elite defensive stopper. He's the force behind a top 5 defense before he turns 23. And the best case scenario on offense is that he figures out one way to score with consistency. He was an elite offensive rebounder as a rookie. And in a league where offensive rebounding is becoming increasingly appreciated and emphasized at the highest levels, the best case scenario is that Clingan finds an elite putback touch and becomes an extra possession creator and, more importantly, an easy point creator, someone who can not only create extra possessions, but create points out of it. The best case scenario, if you're being really greedy, is like you could say that he develops a reliable post move, maybe a baby hook over his left shoulder with his right hand. But to me, that feels like a goal for year 3 based on what we saw in year 1. But the best case scenario is that Clingan, the things he was very good at in year 1, are obvious strengths and not at a level that is important for rookies, at a level that is anchoring a top 5 defense and dominating the offensive glass to the point where you are one of the best offensive rebounders in the league. The best case scenario is that Donovan Clingan's strengths are stronger than everyone else's. So what's the worst case scenario? It's that with runway to play 28 to 30 minutes a night and no one realistically in front of him, Clingan proves that he's not quite ready for that big of a role. The worst case scenario is that UConn Donnie, like many players before him, gets an expanded role, and because of a larger role, his flaws are exposed more regularly. His lack of perimeter foot speed in space and just in general moving laterally becomes something that teams can target. And instead of being this elite rim protecting force, he is always and forever the dance partner of choice as teams effectively pull him away from the rim. And they force him to repeatedly guard pick and rolls and all types of perimeter actions every chance they get. The worst case scenario is that Clingan's weaknesses get highlighted and that teams find a way to scheme such that his weaknesses are constantly on display. And on offense, the worst case scenario is that he remains stuck on 0 go-to moves on offense, and that even as a force grabbing offensive rebounds, I don't think that's going anywhere. Even a worst case scenario, his lack of ability to convert offensive boards into points becomes a glaring issue. And the worst case scenario is that the Blazers are electing to close games with small ball lineups because Clingan is too flawed to be on the floor in the final minutes of close games. That's the worst case scenario. I personally, and I'll talk about this more in a moment, I think Clingan's good. I think he was able to be generally positive on the court with almost no offensive game last season, like almost no way to be positive on offense. Like he sets really good screens, and he's like a decent passer, but I don't think they really unlocked much of his passing in terms to make it like an actual skill. I do think he has that skill, but we didn't see it. And maybe he'll show it more, but I don't think he's not going to be like throwing dimes off the bounce or whatever. I think he's like a good handoff guy, and I think he reads some backdoor cuts pretty well, reads cutters pretty well. But in general, he's just like, he was like a negative on offense. Like he's just pretty bad at it, but he was able to be a positive player in the back half of the season. Like he helped them win his minutes in the back half of the season because of how good he was on defense. He's pretty advanced there. Now his like skill set is relatively narrow, right? Like he does one thing, but he does that one thing very well. He protects the rim. He knows his strengths and weaknesses, and I feel like that is the real part of his game that has been impressive. Donovan Clingan knows what he does well, and he generally leans into what he does well, which is always a sign for players who aren't like crazy freak athletes, right? And he's like, he is sort of a freak athlete. Anyone who can like play 25 minutes in the NBA at his size is probably file it under freak athlete, but not in terms of like, leaping up to 1 million feet in the air. He's not Dwight Howard at his size, right? He's got real gifts. And I think even in the worst case scenario, it's like it might be more like, yeah, he does some stuff well, but they can scheme out of it. I want to talk about role and expectations, and I want to talk about how the Blazers, a little X's and O's stuff about how things to watch, how the Blazers can make sure that Clingan is doing what he does best as often as he can. Join me in that third segment, won't ya? Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You still listen to Locked On Blazers. What we do to close the show in these season previews is talk role and expectations. We set the polls. Now let's talk about where I think the middle is. First of all, role, Donovan Clingan is your starting center. He is your day one starting center. He's a lock to start. I don't even think there's a conversation. I think undoubtedly, look, Tumani, Denny, and Clingan are going to start. I think Drew is going to start. I think 4 positions are a lock. But Clingan, he's one of the lockiest locks. He's going to start. And I also think he's like a 27-minute-a-night guy. More than that might be a little greedy. It might be too much because I don't know how much he can handle. He was not in particularly good shape to begin his NBA career, and not in particularly good shape by NBA standards, right? Like he was not able to play as much. And some of that is like the learning curve for young guys, right? It's like, okay, yeah, this league is harder. It moves faster. You were in good shape for the last, version of the basketball you played. This is a jump up. This is what it's going to take, physicality wise. He played, on the year, he played 19.8 minutes a game. But after the All-Star break, when he was a starter, he was playing 25 a night. I think with better conditioning in year 2, and just in general, like understanding what your role is going to be and all of that. 27 easy, 25 a night as a 21-year-old in the league. And I don't think like he looked, obviously there's some times where he's like breathing heavy or whatever. Like he's going to be tired. Players get tired, but I don't think there were times where it was like, oh yeah. And then if you get Clingan in the fourth quarter, he's just horrendous. And that's kind of what I mean in the worst case scenario is he get exposed a little bit. Maybe that is a thing that we'll see, but I don't think we saw that very much. I do think he got in better shape as the year went on. He's going to get in better shape. He's going to understand how it all works. I don't necessarily read much into. I know the Blazers drafted a center that they like a lot in Young Hansen in the draft this year. I was going to say the lottery, but they traded back out of the lottery to get him. But I understand that they did indeed draft a young center behind him. I don't necessarily think that impacts Donovan Clingan much in the short term. I don't think that changes his role. I don't think it changes his future outlook with the Blazers. But I wonder if he feels differently. Here's what I think wholeheartedly and truly believe. There's going to be a story written during training camp by someone who covers the team that says Donovan Clingan is so supportive of Young Hansen, is so excited, and he's saying all the right things. He can't wait to help him. They've got a great relationship, and he's not worried about him. There's going to be some version of that story written about how DC really, the way Ayton supported him, and Ayton was a great champion of him. That DC is championing Hansen behind him. Well, you know what? They got Ayton the heck up out of here, right? He championed him right his way to the Lakers. Championed him right to getting waived. But I do think we'll kind of get it on the record that DC he's not threatened by Hansen. In fact, they're developing a close friendship. But I wonder if in his heart of hearts he will feel differently. I just had this monster rookie year. I was blocking every single shot. I'm this defensive force, and you're going to draft another center? How dare you? I don't think they can play together. Chauncey Billups said as much as they're not going to play together. Maybe there's a place down the line when they can, but right now, it's just neither of them can move enough laterally to make the way the Blazers want to play defense work. So a lot of people point to offense with the stuff when they talk about two bigs. It's defense, right? To me, offense is fine. The shooting is going to be. Offense is fine to worry about, right? Because the shooting could be a problem. Clingan was 14 of 49 from 3 in 67 games. But to me, it's defense. It's teams being able to spread out slow guys and get advantages, and then you're in the paint, and then you're in scramble mode, and then you've got two slow guys in scramble mode, right? That's why two centers can't play together. Some teams can get away with it, and maybe the Blazers can develop some sort of zone like Houston did that allows you to get away with it. But that's another level. Right now, I just don't think we'll see it very much because it's not how the Blazers want to play. But speaking of how the Blazers want to play, it ties back into I mentioned in the worst case scenario, it's pulling Donovan Clingan away from the rim. And the worst case scenario is that teams figure out how to really get him out of his comfort zone, right? Because his best skill is just understanding to play a deep controlled drop. When they set a screen, Clingan is not high up at the level of the screen. He's below the screen, basically playing center field, being 7'2" and in the way, right? Gigantic and in the way. He understands that that's his peak skill. But when guys are really good rim protectors, one thing you will see in the league often is they will put the center, and I think this was popularized by the Celtics, but I'm sure, I know Ime Udoka does it in Houston now too, but he did it a little bit in Boston as well, and Joe Mazzulla still does it too, and you see it a little bit, and the Blazers actually showed us some of this with Young Hansen at Summer League. You take the center and put him on a non-shooter. And I think this is the way that you kind of figure out how to keep Clingan around the rim. You actually watch the Mavs do this too. They're really, really good at keeping Derek Lively low. Lively can guard out on the perimeter, but what makes him special is protecting the rim, right? So they will switch off the ball often to keep Derek Lively as the low man. So they're putting him on a non-shooter, and then as the actions unfold, they're trying to switch off the ball to make sure that he stays as the low man is when there's a pick and roll on one side, there's a guy whose responsibility is to rotate over and guard the rim. You're the low man in the action, that's the help defender on the backside of the play. But keeping that low man, not a little guy, but keeping it Clingan by actively switching him off the ball and actively taking him off the natural pick and roll partner, off the center, and putting him on non-shooting wings or less threatening shooting wings. If you can scheme it, you can't do that against every team, but I think that is one way That one thing I'll definitely be watching with the Blazers. It's a relatively common trend, I think, around the league. So is maybe we're going to see teams play a bunch of zone, right? Like maybe that happens. But I think the Blazers have already been a team that presses a lot and plays it. They have tried the zone to various times. They used to, a couple of years ago, they played a lot and it was horrendous and they kind of dropped it. And they were pretty good defense without doing much zone. But I'm curious how much we will see that from Clingan as well. My expectations of him is I think he's a really good defensive player. I just do. Like I just think what he did as a rookie is like, I don't know if it's like so impressive, but it was so clear that he has elite skills he can build on, even with all his warts. He might never be he can't really, like when you watch him in college, both years he was in college, the other center who played for UConn was just dunking everything, right? Like they threw lobs up to everybody, right? They said like Sinogo and then Samson Johnson. What's his? I forget the backup. His second year in the league, but it's like they're like UConn was throwing crazy lobs. Clingan wasn't really involved in those. I'm not sure he's ever going to be the guy who can like get his feet organized and get off the ground quickly enough to be a lob threat. He'll be able to put back lobs just by being gigantic, but I'm not sure that'll ever be an elite skill of his. But I'm not sure he'll ever be a big post-up guy. He's pretty limited. I'm skeptical of him becoming a shooter based on how poorly he shot free throws during his young basketball career. But I do think, like, for me, his strengths, what he is really good at, are strong enough that his baseline of being a competent NBA player is pretty high. I wonder, for me, do the Blazers need him? And this will be a question answered throughout the season. Do they need him to be more on offense? If he's a dude who just grabs offensive rebounds and is just an anchor on defense, is that good enough for what they need to be, like, not even this season, but like projecting going forward? Or will we get to a point, and I wonder if we get to a point sort of midway through this season, where it's like Clingan is so limited on offense, it's becoming a problem. And I think that's kind of one of the things I'm going to be watching with him. Because he doesn't necessarily have to score. He certainly doesn't need to shoot threes. But like, can he be a better pick and roll player as just like a good screener and someone who can roll into space and find a way to like, you know, get to a spot where he can score? Can he work on his hands that he can catch entry passes and bounce passes on the roll a little bit cleaner? Can he, you know, just have a little more touch around the rim to get there? Or does it get to a point where it's like the offense is an issue? Because to me, I have no worries about him being a defender. I think he's going to be at some point in his career someone who competes regularly for all defense teams. I think he's that good on defense. I don't think this year by any means, but I think regularly for I know that was best case scenario early in the show, but I don't think I'd be surprised if he hits that. So like, but I do think he's that level of defender. He's like someone who regularly will be like, yeah, well, if you're talking, one of the 3 to 5 best defensive centers in the league for 6-7 seasons, right? I do think he can be that good, but his limitations when you play more, I wonder why that shows up, and I wonder how it shows up relative to his teammates. Does Scoot Henderson need someone who's better offensive player as a roll man? Does Denny Avdia needs someone who's a better, pick and pop guy or lob guy to unlock what he does as a pick and roll operator? Like, I wonder not just what Clingan's strengths and weaknesses are, but how those are addressed vis-a-vis his colleagues. Cause I think that is the really fascinating part of this. I'm confident in his baseline of being pretty good at what he already does. And if you listen to the show, you know that I think the most important thing you can do is have your strengths be strong. He understands that part of it. But there is a point when you play more that your weaknesses matter. And I think that's one thing I'll be tracking with him this season is at what point do his weaknesses matter, or does he sharpen them enough that they don't matter? And we're like getting pretty excited about DC, because I do think his feel on defense is special. I think that part of his is very, very, very high level. That is going to do it for this program. Come back for more the rest of this week. It's what we do 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. Tell your friends about the program. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.